Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I'm Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about See. This is one of the new shows from Apple Plus TV, which launched today. At the time of recording, Apple's new streaming service. It launched in 100 countries and blah 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 blah, and you can go and find it on your Apple devices, your Fire Stick, or your... I think Roku has it. Maybe has an app too.
Probably.
I think I saw
if
that.
If not, someone will have cracked one in there by now.
So this is See episode 1 of season 1. It's called Godflame. We will start spoiler free because it is in episode 1. This is the Jason Momoa kind of sci-fi show. It's set in a sort of far future post-apocalyptic world.
Technically, it's a post-apocalyptic sci-fi. Yeah.
Technically, the reason why I say technically is because it doesn't really feel that sci-fi, because it feels more like it's set in the past because things have deteriorated so much that it's back to being sort of prehistoric looking.
But the fact that it's later is kind of important.
But it feels more like a fantasy show than it does a sci-fi show.
It does right now, yeah.
So that's why I say technically, because I don't think it feels that much like a sci-fi show, despite...
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
Despite the technicality. I've used that word like 5 times.
But the feeling like Horizon Zero Dawn, the game.
Yeah, but that had metal robot dinosaurs. So
yeah, no, I know.
There was something futuristic in there.
There was, yeah.
But yeah. So the premise of this is that everyone who's left, there was a disease or something. There was some
text at the start.
There was some text at the start, yeah. But there was a disease or something that wiped out most of the population of the planet. Only 3 million were left, which is quite small out of...
I think it was only 2 million, actually. So it's even smaller.
I think it was 3 million. I think you're wrong, but it doesn't really matter. 2 or 3 million out of 7 billion is really meaningless.
As a percentage, either way, it's tiny.
So... But the catch is that everyone who survived and kept living lost the ability to see. They lost their eyesight. So it's just normal for everyone to be blind. And it's actually heresy, this text explained, to even talk about the possibility of eyesight. It's this myth, this idea that we could see shapes and colours and whatever, if they even have words for such things.
Shapes, probably. Colours, unlikely.
Yeah, they can feel shapes. But you know what I mean? Like, you know, all the visual things that we kind of dictate our world by, because most of us can see, is the sort of thing that they can't. So interesting premise for sure. The early reviews were not great. The buzz wasn't super kind to it in the interwebs. So curious to check this out. I mean, there was kind of a chance here this was one that we were checking out just to see if the negative buzz was indeed correct and report accordingly. But you know.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair to it, we saw the trailer a while back and we weren't convinced. It looked like it had production value.
No, it does. It looks good. It's shot in a ratio of about 2.20 to 1. It's not quite the same movie shape that most movies are, but it's almost there. But it's wider than the Netflix ratio.
It is.
So
yeah.
I'm estimating 2.2 to 1.
Yeah, sure. Just not long before launch Stephen Knight was involved, and it's pretty good.
Yeah, didn't show in the episode though because it was terrible.
Yeah. He wrote this episode somehow.
That surprises me because it was terrible. It was very terrible, in fact. This was a series of poorly written, tropey scenes. It didn't seem to really take advantage of the fact that its characters were all blind. I felt like there was entire scenes where I didn't... you could have just told me this wasn't a scene full of blind people and I'd have believed you.
Yeah, I think the fighting stuff kind of works for it.
Honestly,
they're kind of playing with it a little bit more there.
There's a plot beat, which I won't get into too much because of spoilers yet, but there's a plot beat where they don't know someone's betrayed them because they can't see that he was with someone else, and I thought, okay, all right, that's interesting. That's playing with your premise. That's playing with like what's different in this world because no one can see anything. Okay, sure. But honestly, for the most part, it was just a lot of monologuing speeches. Alfred Woodard's character, who's like the kind of the not a prophecy woman of the clan, but
she's kind of the healer. Kind of
the mystical,
the wise woman of the clan.
Well, not actually mystical because witches are outlawed, and in fact, what the villains are witch finders who are coming from the Queen, Queen Kane. Which, by the way, so we watched 2 shows today from Apple Plus. We're going to do a separate review for All Mankind, but I want to make a point here. because we'd heard repeatedly over the last year that Apple were going to be nothing higher than PG-13, and there was going to be no adult content in both shows. This one had I'll just I'll say it's a raunchy scene.
Yeah.
that felt a bit above PG-13 to me, and then For All Mankind had some F-bombs. Now, admittedly,
this had one F-bomb as well, I think.
Maybe it did, yeah. But
I remember thinking, oh, they got one in, because, you know, you're allowed one.
Yeah, and to be fair, it might have just been one For All Mankind, so maybe that one just squeaks past.
I think there might have only been the one as well, yeah, near the start.
I don't know, but there was a scene here, I'll just say, when a certain person is praying, air quotes, that felt a little bit... If this is just scraping by PG-13... Now, admittedly, I don't know if they're actually officially rating this, because they probably don't need to, or bother. Maybe they're just roughly using the guideline of what a PG-13 could be.
I feel like they're pushing it. I mean, even before we got to that, with some of the violence that was there, I'm like, I mean, this is maybe just about... But because PG-13, typically what pushes it over the edge is the blood, right? It's actually seen. It's not the violence itself; it's the blood element that makes it real, that pushes it above that. I felt there was quite a few blood spurts that were quite visceral during that. That I thought, yeah, this is pushing it. And then we got to that.
Just to admit, it's more TV-14 Apple. Just admit it. Although,
which is fine.
Well, here's the thing, though. I don't think it actually matters. I think they're just using it as a guideline. I mean, it is worth noting that the shows we did watch, there was like a warning on the main page that said, what was the word? I think it just said caution. I think that's the word they had next to it, was caution. I think the caution meant this
I
is
didn't
for,
even see that.
Yeah, it's for... Because at first I thought it was saying caution because of, like, you know, it said, you know, maybe like a strobe effect warning, like, oh, if you got epilepsy, maybe don't watch this. But I think it was just, this is not for kids. I think that's what caution means.
Yeah, probably.
And that's fair enough.
Make that clearer.
Probably.
Not that we care, but, you know, just as a rule.
I will say this, before we talk about the rest of the episode... I do want to say, I do not have any Apple devices. I don't have a Fire Stick, so I was not watching it in any of these methods. I was simply watching it through their web browser player. And I have to say that was a dire experience, and their web browser player is absolutely horrendous. It wouldn't play on Chrome at all. I switched to Firefox, hoping that it would work on there. It did. The quality was not spectacular. I would say that it was a low bitrate 720p.
Yeah, I was going to say, because I know on even Netflix, if you watch it on Chrome or Firefox, it limits at 720. It's like a piracy protection thing. So I wonder if Apple are doing the same.
Amazon doesn't do that, so I don't give a shit. They should do better.
Oh, they should.
So yeah, Amazon gives me nice crisp 1080p, high bitrate. Apple has failed that test. But here's the thing, though. I've watched Netflix on my browser that's been 720p, and it looked much better than this. This looked
bitrate's better, yeah.
Yeah, the bitrate was not as good here. It just wasn't. And I don't know, you watched it in Fire. I don't know if the bitrate was good on you end with 1080p or whatever.
So, I will say, watched it 1080p on the Fire Stick.
Yes.
I thought the visual quality was actually kind of great. 1080p was up there with the best of what I've seen for 1080p on a streaming service.
So yeah, so the apps, dedicated apps on the various platforms might be fine.
I did have my own audio problem, where every so often it wasn't consistent. It was a line here or there, like of dialogue would just, the bitrate on the dialogue would drop, and it would just sound really harsh and, you know, low quality for one line of dialogue, and then it cut to another character saying something, and it'd be fine again. And no idea what it was, to the point where I was wondering if this was in the recording. That's how...
I don't think so, because I don't think I was having that, bizarrely.
You'd have noticed it.
Yeah. But I did have a different issue. On top of the low quality and only working on one browser, I never tried, like, I've never opened Edge. Maybe it works better on Edge. But I did have another problem. It's a serious problem as well, is that basically about every 10 to 15 minutes, the episode, and this was both episodes, this wasn't just on one of them, this is the two things I watched, it would just stop playing, the screen would go black. And I'd be like, okay, I'd have to refresh the page, it would not remember that I had watched some of it, so I'd have to find my place again. And this happened 4 times on both shows.
4 each or 4 in total?
4 each. So this was not a pleasant experience. I think now it's day one. Maybe they'll iron this out fairly quickly. Maybe, you know, whatever problems they're having is something that they've not predicted. But better sort this shit out, because this has not made me want to watch anything else.
Even before I got to that, it took me about an hour and a half to be able to sign in to watch anything. um, because I did not have an Apple account because I had one many years ago, connected to an email I no longer have access to. So I was like, well, that's gone. Make a new one. It wasn't having it. It was like, you need iTunes. I'm like, but I really don't want iTunes because I hate it on my computer. It causes problems. It's just a bastard little program. So I had to spend ages doing these workarounds just to get my account to be active, even though they'd gone, yeah, sure, you got an account, it's fine. They're like, no, you need it to be an iTunes account.
I'll tell you what, I bet people who actually have Apple TV boxes probably had nothing but smooth sailing today. Is all of us who are using other ways that they're supposed to be officially supporting are all having issues. It's funny that we both use different methods, but both encounter their own problems. So hopefully they sort that shit out. But I will say the video quality, especially, and the stopping and not remembering where it stopped. Because it'd be one thing.
Terrible.
It'd be one thing if it stopped, and then when I went back into it, I remembered where I was. So it was okay. It's a minor inconvenience. But the fact that I had to sit there and find my spot again was infuriating. And not only that, actually, another problem. A bit of this was more for All Mankind, but relevant as well for On Tech Issues. Is that For All Mankind had scenes with Spanish-speaking characters. I had to manually turn on the subtitles just for the Spanish sections, and the subs.
Mine had subtitles. It also had it over the tape recording bits as well, just for clarity.
I had it for those, yeah.
I appreciate, although I was tiny subtitle size. I was struggling to read them.
Mine were huge actually on the browser. They were too big. And they all had black box backgrounds.
They did, yeah. That was horrible.
I'm not super into that, but yeah. So it's so weird. And what was weird though is when I went to turn the subtitles on, I had to do it twice for them to work every single time with it. Because remember, because I had to keep opening it up.
Do this 4 times.
Yes. So every single time I had to do it twice so that the forced subs. And you know which ones are just for those bits because it says English forced. If it says forced after it, that means it's just for the bits that are in a different language, not the whole thing. So that's your trick for there. But yeah, I just sat and described 3 or 4 problems that I had trying to watch the content. So
and I had a few problems as well. So between us, not a pleasant experience. That if Apple are coming out the gate day one, this is they're coming out swinging with 4 or 5, I think maybe 6 shows or something like that in total. Not all that we care about, but they're there.
I think including the non-fiction stuff, it's actually more like 8, something like that.
Is it? Right, okay.
Oprah's got a book club thing. There's like a kids variety thing.
Yeah, there's an elephant documentary movie. Yeah. That's true. So with that point, they want to make a good impression. They want me to come back and go, yeah, I want to carry on using this. And just on a technical level alone, I don't really want to. But
there's always a chance that the content would be good enough.
Justify it.
You would suffer through it and hopefully it gets better. C is not that content.
Ooh, no, it's not.
C is full of terrible monologuing about there's a lot
something or other.
Yeah, honestly, I was like zoning out of a lot of this. Whenever there was speeches happening, it was all things that I didn't really quite get or understand because they hadn't really introduced me to any of it. And
it was a lot of mumbo jumbo.
They actually
is the technical term, I believe.
They actively confused me at one point because I was confused because there was this character that kept talking about this Gerard Gillum or something. I can't remember. It was like J something, Gerard Gillum or something like that. I don't know.
Is this Momoa's character?
No. Well, this is the confusing part. Is I wasn't sure if that was meant to be Momoa's character or someone else. But at the end of it, it's clear that it's someone else. Momoa is not this character. But I was confused halfway through because Momoa's like Baba. He's like Baba something.
Baba Boss, yeah. But because they say it really fast, don't they?
But I was thinking that Baba Voss used to be this character and he changed his name because of the way they were talking about him. It was confusing me. But I don't think so. And I felt that was just sloppiness. It wasn't. It wasn't because they wanted it to be a reveal at the end. It wasn't because
wasn't clear.
It wasn't clear. Because the way they kept talking about the kids that were being born, it made it sound like it was him they were talking about.
I think actually, to be fair, I think at the start of the episode that's intentional because she's talking about the father, and and then it cuts to him, and and you're supposed to assume that it's not until later that it kind of.
But he is the father.
Around. No, he's not.
He's not.
No, not. Is this spoilers now? I don't know anymore.
Full spoilers for C. You shouldn't care. It's terrible. Go on.
Yeah. Okay. The impression I got is he's not the father. She came to the tribe pregnant with these two kids. Well, and that's why and he took her in and was like, okay, you're mine now. And essentially, like, okay, these kids are mine. He was adopting them already.
Okay.
And that's why the guy betrays them, because he's like, no. He came, she came to us pregnant, and and these kids are probably evil. And the guy who was the father is the slave that the queen talks about later, who could see.
Who could see? Yes, and they're worried that the kids, because she asked one of her, I don't know, doctors, I guess, can the, because they call it the light, can the light be passed on to through birth?
Is it hereditary?
Is it hereditary? Yeah. She never used that word though. She said it in fantasy speak.
Yeah.
Which I hate, by the way, for the record. And he's like, no, I don't believe so. And of course, like, the whole premise is, I mean, this is just, even though it's the end of the episode, is like we can clearly see, ironically, that the babies can see, because they're looking up at the bird and like looking around.
And it's the premise of the show.
But yeah, it was in the trailers because it's the premise of the show that these babies can see, and that's going to be the driving force. Because this episode is largely about them sort of migrating to a new spot that apparently this slave, Jabberjaw, whatever he's called, he left them like a trail so that they could find this new haven. Although, to be honest, it's like an empty field next to some trees. I mean,
there's a lake there, isn't there?
I guess.
I'm sure there's some water of some kind.
It didn't look that magical. I actually almost started laughing when like Alfie Woodard's like down in the ground and sniffing the grass. I'm like, this grass doesn't look that good. I mean, I guess they're blind; they can't tell it looks like shit. But
this place felt super undefensible compared to their previous home.
It looked like a random bit of field next to some trees.
We learned in their previous home they're on a mountain with three sides are sheer cliff. There's only one side that's sloped that you can come up. So they've only got one side to defend.
Yeah, the first half of the episode is them defending from like the army, because they've got like a good defensible position. It's because it's like a bottleneck. Plus, they've got high ground. It's a good spot.
And then they've actually got a collapsible wall to sweep things away if it's a worst case scenario.
Yeah, which it turned out to be, and there's this traitor. Who turns them out of the Witchfinders, but when they're crossing this bridge, because they don't believe bridges can exist, because how can blind people build bridges?
Yeah, I think, to be fair, it's a bridge this big that they can't comprehend. So I assume smaller ones.
Yeah, well, I get the impression that either Jabberjaw built this, or it's just been around since.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe he built it because it's just wooden rope, so I would assume it wouldn't have survived as long as that. Because there's one point where they talk about how he described these flat lands, and it kind of sounded like he was describing roads, maybe.
Yeah, how long? I mean, not that we're going to find out because I'm not going to stick around to watch it. But how long do you think it'll be before they do the whole? Well, we find like the head of the Statue of Liberty sticking out of the ground or something like that, or they'll find.
I give it like 2 episodes tops. I think by the end of it, 3, because they put 3 out.
Yeah, they'll find a monument of some kind that's like sort of like obviously half destroyed and like whatever, but they'll find something that's recognizable. It's going to happen.
Probably.
So yeah, and like there's some stuff. It's like, oh, there's a ladder here. Do they have like these like sort of bead style things as their written language? Essentially, they feel these beads to tell to.
It looks kind of like a blind version of Morse code, because it was all like little dots that was on it. So I'm assuming it was like, and you could see the spaces.
Let's rewind here. A blind version of Morse code. Did you realize how stupid that sounded?
I did, and I carried on through it and was hoping you wouldn't.
Morse code, in case no one knows this, Morse code is typically used by blind people.
Yes. Well, I mean, not just exclusively. Okay. It's a physical version of Morse code rather than a sound or light, right? So it's physical that they can touch.
Morse code's always physical.
No, it's not. Are you thinking of Braille?
Oh, I'm thinking of Braille. Good point. Which is why I thought what you said was really stupid, because I thought you said it's a blind version of Braille, and I'm
no. My point was, okay, Morse code. You don't. You can understand it with if you're blind. Don't get me wrong, because you can do it in sound.
Yeah, you can do it in sound.
But you can also do it in light.
You can do it in light, which is why I was about to rip you to shreds. Because I'm like, how can you do Braille in light? Well, what would the purpose of that be?
Yeah. No, my point here is it was physical. It was beads, and you could see the spaces between the letters. So you could they were spelling it out.
Yes.
So yeah,
Unless
not Braille. It was different. Was the point?
yes, this is not Braille. The main's going to be blown when someone maybe Jabberjaw can teach them Braille. But yeah, you know, because it's like, okay, there's a ladder at one point, and all it is really just like a log that's got like bits like carved out of each side to climb down and things like that. But I did like the bridge scene a little bit, but just because this idea of like the enemy actually comes up behind them at the edge of the bridge, like, okay, we'll send the traitor that gave us information across first to see if it's safe, and. Yeah. Like, they're all moving. So I like the idea that the enemy's that close to them, but because everyone's blind, they can't just run after them. There's like an element of, like, we have to feel this out.
And this bridge is pretty rickety.
Yeah.
So, like, few people have already fallen off.
There's some conceptual potential here. And like I say, the idea that the traitor, like, halfway across the bridge when Momoa's, like, just about to, like, cut it down, the guy's like, no, help, it's me, you've left me behind. And they don't know that he's betrayed them because they can't see that he's with the enemy. Like... So
yeah, they just think he's run after them ahead of the enemy, but behind them.
Yeah, so there's an interesting idea there, but honestly, most of this was tedious to get. This is a full hour long, and it has enough plot for maybe 20 minutes.
Yeah, that's not very good. I think visually it looks quite nice, but I mean, it's not enough, is it?
And then there's a scene with the evil empress, the Queen Kane. Queen.
So not an empress.
Well, I was saying empress in the sense that you know, like a fantasy story. She feels like the traditional empress.
Sure.
But yeah, she's a queen. She's Queen Kane, who prays by masturbating to what is ancient music by this point. And
also, I mean, it was a very intentional riff on the Lord's Prayer. Was, you know, what she was saying. I thought.
Yeah, I hated her scene with her delegates.
Yeah, it wasn't very good.
Yeah, why are a bunch of blind people...
That was maybe the worst scene of the episode, actually. Which is saying something.
Which is saying something, yeah. Especially, well, I don't know, the masturbation scene may have been worse. So.
I'm kind of just lumping that in. Just her scenes in general.
Sure, yes, those two scenes back to back.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
Pretty terrible. Pretty damn terrible.
So, I don't know. I feel like it's going for this kind of adventure-y, you know, it probably does want a little bit of that Game of Thrones audience because, I mean, not only because they've got Momoa, but just because they're going for kind of...
I get it, yeah.
Yeah, I
cannot believe the man who wrote Locke wrote this episode.
It's baffling. I don't understand it at all. Which means that that's two TV shows he's done that I've not liked.
What was the other one?
He did that Tom Hardy one.
Taboo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that more than you did. It was better than this, come on.
I mean, sure, but like, I don't want to watch that either. And
no, that's fair.
I definitely don't want to watch this. So that's what it is. Because the fighting takes because there's this fighting like, and it's like cross cut with the birth of the twins, and that takes up like the first 25 minutes of the episode. There's some villain introductions of the Witchfinders. The Queen's stuff takes up like another 5 to 10 minutes. Like, you know, it fills out the runtime, and everything feels overlong.
Honestly, in that first section, I thought maybe this show isn't as bad as I was expecting because, you know, don't wrong, it's drawn out too much. But I thought it's all right. You know, it's not the worst. It's because there's not a ton of talking in this first section.
No, not in the first section. The first, I mean, there's a speech from Momo at one point about how we're all screwed. We have to run. And then,
but that was enough. It was fine.
There's a standoff after that though, where some of the tribe want to hand over the babies to save their own skin, so the Witchfinders won't come after them. And there's like a whole loyalty thing where some of them stand up and say, "No, I'm with Baba Yaga or whatever his name is." Baba Voss. Yeah, whatever.
I did like his line where the woman who's like, "Hey, let's just hand over the kids." She's like, "Well, there's so many of us. You can't kill us all." And he's like, "Well, no, I can kill the first 6 or 7. So go ahead. Who wants to be the first 6?" I mean, I thought that was all right.
No, the problem with this scene though is that it doesn't matter because we don't care about their loyalty to him. This is a scene that happens at the end of a season where we build up the characters enough that we actually kind of fist pump that some of them are sticking up for him. But
I mean, contextually, I understand he's the leader, so they should be loyal to him. But I don't care.
Yeah, I don't care. So there's no weight to this. There's no dramatic weight to this scene. They're playing a beat that should come at the end of a story or towards the end of a story, not at the start of it. And as a result, it means nothing. And and honestly, most of it's just really boring. Like that's one of the big problems I have. Has that in common with Game of Thrones, so I'll give it that.
I'm not going down this path again.
Equally boring as Game of Thrones. That's my
Not doing it.
That's my official review. That's it. That's C episode 1. That's all I got for you.
Yeah, don't bother.
Don't bother. Let us know what you think of the episode if you give it a try. Obviously, the first 3 are out. They put the first 3 out of a few of the shows. I think the Dickinson one put the whole season up. That's all out, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, and we ain't watching 2 and 3, so no chance. But let us know what you think if you've watched it, and if you watch all 3 and you wanted to let us know how it progresses in 2 and 3, by all means. You're not going to convince us to come back to it, but we're curious to hear about it all the same. You can let us know what you think. Get us on the Twitters at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. You can support the show and everything we do here by going to patreon.com/mailfuzztv and donating as little as $1 per month, which will get you some bonuses, some extras, and voting rights and things like that. You can also, of course, support us by rating the podcast on Apple Podcasts. Give us 5 stars, helps us out a lot, makes more people find us. And you can... That's everything. I already did Twitter. That's everything. There you go. That is all my plugging at the end. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, guys. Have you got any vanilla?